Hi friends, it's Julie, and today I'm here with one of my check-in videos for you guys. So in these I let you know the books I've read over the last 2 weeks, the books I'm currently reading, and the books that I plan on picking up very soon. And I don't know about you guys, but ever since it's gotten hot, I have not been reading near as much as I usually do. I think it's because I'm just doing more things outside. But over the last 2 weeks, I've only managed to finish 2¼ books. And I say a quarter because the first book that I finished was one that I was currently reading in my last check-in video, and that was The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. I gushed about this in my last video, so I will link to that if you want to check it out. But this is the first book in the Witcher series, which is a very popular Polish fantasy series. It's a little bit more popular here in the States because of the video game that is that's based off of this book series, and that's The Witcher. It's a very popular fantasy RPG game. But anyway, in this we follow our main character whose name is Geralt, and he is a witcher, which means he has special physical and magical abilities that allow him to bite and kill monsters. He's also really good at lifting curses and things like that, so he just kind of travels around in his world and people pay him for his services. He's also a bit of an outcast in this world as well because he just looks different than everyone else and they're just kind of scared of him. I don't know, so it's very hard for him to meet people and things like that, but he does make some friends, which we meet in this book, and I really enjoyed it. This is actually a short story format. The first 2 books in this series are short stories, and then they get into the actual novels, but I didn't mind the short stories in here at all. I flew through this. I loved it. I was just sucked in, and I really liked that there were kind of multiple timelines. We had one more present timeline that stayed the same, and that was Geralt with all these priestesses. He's staying at this place and they're healing him and things like that. And then it would flash back to times when he was fighting different monsters and things like that. And I just loved all the backstory that I got on these characters in the world that I come to love in the video game, and I just really enjoyed it. I also really liked how he threw in some fairy tale things. There is a reference to these characters who are Rumpelstiltskin, and then we also have Snow White and things like that. I thought that was really fun that he threw those in there, and yeah, I'm just loving this. And I would definitely recommend this if you've played the video game and you want to check out the books, or if you're wanting to read it before the Netflix adaptation comes out. I'm not really sure. They haven't released any information on when it's going to start, but yeah, I'm super excited. And then the second book I finished was 6 Wakes by Mur Lafferty. And this is a mystery suspense novel set in space and has to do with these people who are out on this cruise ship, and they're trying to make it to this very far distant planet. They've been traveling for 25 years. But what's special about all these crew members is that they are clones. So this is set in a future our world. It's 24 or 40 something, I believe. And most people have chosen to be cloned. Pretty much so that they never die, because once one body dies, then they just upload all of your memories and everything into a new clone, and then that clone just takes over your life, and so pretty much you can live forever. And these people are on this cruise ship, and our main character, her name is Maria, and at the very beginning of this book she wakes up in her cloning vat, so obviously the other Maria is dead. But she quickly notices that things are really different because she has no memory of the last 25 years, so all the memories weren't downloaded into her, and that typically doesn't happen. And also when she looks out of her cloning vat, she sees blood and just dead bodies just everywhere, so the rest of the crew is dead as well. And so that's the mystery that we're trying to figure out in this book. And overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought the mystery was so great because it was so complex. There were just so many layers to it, and you just peeled them away throughout the course of the book, and it was a big spider web of how everyone was entangled in it. I absolutely loved that part of this book. I also liked all of the science and futuristic elements to it. It definitely wasn't over the top or over your head or anything like that. It's very straightforward, very easy to understand, especially compared to a lot of other sci-fi books I've read. So, if you don't read a lot of sci-fi, you don't have to worry about that really in this one. But it was so thought-provoking. Would I choose to be a clone? What really makes a person a person? I just loved thinking about all those things while I was reading this book. I also really enjoyed that we had multiple timelines. I'm a sucker for multiple timelines in books. So We had the timeline of like the crew on the ship trying to figure out, who murdered them. And then it was also go back in time and, we would get all the characters like backstories and find out so much about them. And I loved all those aspects of this book, but for some reason I couldn't like fully love this book. And I don't know why, because it had so many strong points. It definitely wasn't a page turner for me though. This wasn't one of those like thrilling, mysteries that you just fly through. It wasn't like that for me. And I don't know if maybe I just wasn't in the mood to read it. I'm not really sure. I liked it every time I sat down to read it, but it just took a while to get through. And I don't know if that's just because it was such a complex story in itself. And I also really didn't like the ending. Not the reveal. The reveal was fine. I hadn't figured it out, really. It was the way it was done, because the story is so complex, but at the end, it just seemed rushed and just seemed so easy. And I didn't really like that. But overall, I still really, really enjoyed this. And if the book sounds interesting to you, then I definitely recommend picking up. I really don't think you're going to be disappointed. I just didn't love it. And then the final book I read was Final Girls by Riley Sager, and this was a psychological thriller that I got from NetGalley in exchange for an honest review, and so I'll be posting one a little bit closer to the release of this book. But I just briefly want to say that this is one of those thrillers that is just such a page turner. Like, you are just sucked into this book. You can't put it down. You just have to know what's going to happen, and the twist is really good. Like, I did not see it coming, which says a lot because I read a lot of thrillers, but definitely keep your eye out for this one because I think that it could be a pretty big book this year. But in this one, we follow this young girl named Quincy, who is the only survivor of the Pine Cottage massacre, where all of her friends were brutally murdered. They were up in this cabin in the woods for the weekend, and Quincy was the only one to survive. She also has not very many memories of this night. She can't remember really what happened, and so over the course of this book, all that's being revealed, really what happened that night, why can't Quincy remember, and really that's all I'm going to say about it. Just keep an eye out for my full review, but I really enjoyed it, and you guys probably will too if you like psychological thrillers. So those are all the books that I've read so far, and right now I'm currently reading Sword of Destiny by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is the second book in the Witcher series, so this is the second short story collection. I'm only about 40 pages into this, so I really can't tell you too much about it yet. But I'm really hoping I get some good quality reading time in this weekend to kind of dive back into this world. I'm in such like a fantasy / horror thriller mood right now. So since I'm reading a little bit of fantasy, I think I'm also going to incorporate some horror, maybe a thriller in there. And I think I'm going to go with Brother by Ania Alburn. I've never read anything by this author, but some of her books came up on like a book recommendation page for me because I think they're supposed to be really dark. She's like an indie horror author. If you've read any of her books, please leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think about them. But this one definitely sounds like something that I would probably think is very scary. It's more of that realistic horror like I talked about in one of my last videos. But this is about this family called the Morrows, and it sounds like they have a pretty dark secret. Looks like they like kidnap women and like murder them. And one of the sons, his name is Michael, he doesn't really want to do this anymore. He kind of wants to get out and have more of a normal life, and he meets this girl that I think he like wants to start a relationship with, but his brother finds out about it, and I think things just go like terribly wrong. At least that's what I'm kind of getting from the back there. So this definitely sounds like something that I would probably really, really enjoy. So I'll let you guys know what I think. And then I also still want to pick up Pray for Silence by Linda Castillo. I didn't get to this one because I decided to read Final Girls instead. But this is the second thriller in her Kate Burkholder series. I read Sworn to Silence like last month or the month before. I can't remember. It's all running together now. But I really enjoyed Sworn to Silence, so I definitely want to continue on with this series. And this one is set in that same little Amish community called Painter Mills. But in this one, a whole family is like slaughtered in their house. And so Kate, the chief of police, comes out and, starts trying to figure out what happened to them. And she comes across the diary of one of the daughters of the family, and it looks like she was hiding a pretty dark secret. I don't know, that's just what I read here in the little inner flap, but hopefully this one is pretty dark too, because the first one was really dark and I really enjoyed it. So that's it for like the horror and thrillers that I'm going to be reading soon. Now on to like the fantasy sci-fi, because I said I was kind of in that mood too. And so after I finish Sword of Destiny, I'll probably start one of these. I still want to read Mad Ship, but I'm waiting for Katie to give me the go-ahead on that since we are reading all of those books together. So in the meantime, I think I'll jump into The Obelisk Gate, which is the second book in N.K. Jemison's Broken Earth trilogy. I read the 5th season like a couple months ago, maybe last month, and really loved it, so I definitely can't wait to jump into this. And one thing that I like so much about her books is they're short. For this genre, like sci-fi fantasy, her books are pretty short. Like this is it's under 400 pages, and typically you don't get that in this genre, so I definitely like that. But then another series that I really, really want to start is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Well, this is the first book in this trilogy. It's called The Blade Itself. And this was actually gifted to me by my brother-in-law, John, like 2 years ago. He knows that I like really dark stories, and he also knows that I enjoy fantasy. So he's like, you have to read these. They are so good. I didn't know anything about them at the time, but since then, you know, I've heard all about them, and so many people love this series. And yeah, I definitely want to read it. This is supposed to like grim dark fantasy, which is something that I really want to explore this year. So yeah, I definitely plan on reading this very soon. But those are all of the books that I'm planning on reading and the books that I've read in the last couple weeks. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know if you read any of these and what you thought about them or what you are currently reading, because I would love to know. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all again very soon. Happy reading. Bye.